Will make their last-minute preparations for Hurricane Sandy. The storm is surpassing many expectations already, and it is, again, not in a good way. We'll say it that way. Now, we'll show you where and when the storm could cause some flooding, downed trees, power outage, and this is not an overestimate for millions of people watching us right now. Thanks so much for staying with us. I'm Todd Santos, and you're watching our round-the-clock coverage of Hurricane Sandy. Keep in mind, even if you do lose power, you can easily find us online and, of course, on your mobile device. Now, this system is already a historic storm, and it is far from over at this point. I want to bring you the very latest coming into our satellite center here at the Weather Channel. 33 counties in 4 states are now under winter storm watches and warnings. This is an incredible thing to be talking about when we're now talking about a hurricane, but those states, North Carolina, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia. Now, Frisco, North Carolina, and the Outer Banks is actually preparing, or should I say reporting, nearly 6 inches of rainfall already. All parks are now closed in and around New York City, and I want to say we have just about, just inside now of an hour and a half before all New York transit is closed down. That means the subways, and good luck finding a cab once that happens. So make sure you are set to be hunkered down there. And want to bring in our hurricane specialist, Dr. Greg Postel, to kind of get an idea of what you're thinking out there with some of the latest here. Again, there's so many separate facets of this storm.
Yeah, it's, fortunately it's kind of behaving. That's one good thing. Maybe it's behaving exactly as forecast or very close to that. So it hasn't thrown any surprises in there yet. But unfortunately, the forecast is very dire for many along the northeast coast. So let's look at the latest forecast, or latest advisory from the Hurricane Center. 75-mile-per-hour storm as of 5 o'clock, 952 on the pressure. That's extraordinarily low. And what that is going to likely do is maybe break some minimum pressure records near where the center comes on board, very likely now in New Jersey, we think, on Monday evening. The storm overall is moving toward the northeast at 15. There's where the center is, about 350 miles east of Wilmington, North Carolina, maybe 550 miles south-southeast of New York City. This is where the center is, but, impacts are being already felt along the Jersey coast. There are high waves there and rain and gusty winds all across the northeast part with the northeast part of the country, and middle Atlantic with a northeasterly wind, at times gusting already up to 40 miles per hour. So let's look at some of the observations there that we've already had a look at. Atlantic City, northeast, sustained 21, gusts to 26, largely 15 to 25 mile per hour winds on the sustained, but a little bit further south they're gusting 30 to 40 miles per hour over Virginia, Delaware, and coastal Carolina. There is a buoy here with a sustained wind at 38 miles an hour out of the northeast. Waves are 14 feet, and some large waves are definitely making their way close to the coast in New Jersey and all up and down the northeast coast for that matter. So let's look at right now what we've got here is the GFS forecast model for tomorrow morning. This is where the center of Sandy is expected to be. Very bad conditions already in place across parts of the East Coast. In fact, Norfolk, Virginia, that's about when the worst conditions will be there for you. And they will be going downhill. Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Philly, New York City. Conditions are going to be getting worse during the day on Monday, and landfall likely along the New Jersey coast Monday evening, but impacts spread over a very wide area, perhaps hurricane-force gusts over regions anywhere from Washington all the way up to Boston. Now, the pressure minimum that one of the models is expecting when it comes on shore is 947 millibars, and to put it in some kind of perspective, here's some of the all-time record minimum pressures that have ever been recorded in this region. Atlantic City, 960, New York, 961. So all around the 960 area, if indeed that forecast does verify, it will break records. And what that is telling you is that basically this storm has so much energy associated with it and so much wind power that it is going to likely do a lot of damage. Now, here's some timing for New Jersey, for example. Some conditions that you might expect. During the day tomorrow, we'll see coastal flooding, winds gusting 40 to 50 with large and destructive waves tomorrow. And then Monday night, that's when the worst conditions will likely move in, with wind gusts over 75 miles per hour, large and destructive waves along the coast with severe coastal flooding as well. Tuesday, still windy. Perhaps later in the day, things improving, but we still have morning wind gusts to over 65 miles per hour. This is not only intense, but also a long-duration event. So with that, we'll send it back to Todd in the studio.
Thanks so much, Dr. Greg Postel. That is an extraordinary long duration for a system. Now, the Weather Channel, of course, is the most experienced team of meteorologists in the business covering this storm, and we really have you covered across a good stretch of the East Coast here from Jim Cantori, New York. Of course, Al and Stephanie out in Asbury Park, New Jersey. We have at least, of course, the folks here, Reynolds, Eric, holding it down in southeastern New England, and even Julie Martin. And we're finding her now on the Outer Banks of North Carolina. You've been braving the wind for hours here in Nags Head, Julie. I guess you can talk to people about how long this really is just going to last.
Yeah, I think it's really important to hit that point that this is a long duration event. I can tell you, we here on the Outer Banks have been experiencing tropical storm force winds for over 17 hours now, ever since midnight, and it's unrelenting. It hasn't let up yet. We're still seeing gusts around 48 to 50 miles an hour here in Nags Head, a little bit less at Cape Hatteras, but nonetheless, it is a brutal day here. It's going to be a brutal evening as well. We have also, I've just learned, picked up about a half a foot of rain here, and it's continuing to rain hard. It's one of those hard, stinging rains that's coming out from the north. So, guys, we are still dealing with it here, and this is only just a little taste of what Jim Cantori is going to be experiencing there in Battery Park City, New York. Jim, I know that you haven't seen it yet, but I'm sure you're ready.
Yeah, we're ready, and of course the hope of the mayor is that everybody heeds the mandatory evacuation here for Zone A. Hopefully we won't see some of this water get into some parts of Zone B. Anyway, got an update from the New York Stock Exchange here. It is going to be closed in terms of the trading floor, but trading will continue electronically. All right, some pictures from the last hour here over the harbor. I want to show you this big cruise ship heading out of port here into what is going to be an ominous ride for all those on that cruise ship. We have 20 to 40-foot seas out there, regardless of which direction you go. If you go southeast or even south, you're going to go right into the teeth of that storm with that cruise ship. Oof. Hope they got a lot of Dramamine on board. Stick around, much more to come on Sandy, including timing and impacts of this not only surge event, rain event, wind event, but also snow event. Already starting to snow across parts of southwestern Virginia.
I hope that it's not as bad as they're thinking it's going to be, but if it is, it's a good thing that we're evacuated. So I'm ready to go home.
We just had to be prepared, get out. We had to change our ticket so that we could evacuate. But now we just need to find something to eat and get on the bus because we have to get out of here.
Just hearing from some travelers there trying to get home from Atlantic City, hoping that it won't be as bad. But this is why we're telling you to have a plan now. I want to say much of New Jersey Transit, including light rail service, has already been closed down, and we're nearing the 1 hour mark before we close down all New York City Transit. Welcome back. Again, want to bring in Reynolds Wolf. He's actually out in Mystic, Connecticut. And Reynolds, I was just reading part of the coastal flood warning there. Weather Service basically saying that the potential for 6 to 11 feet of that storm surge above the high tides there Monday night into Tuesday morning. That would be substantial in the area you're standing.
Oh, there's no question about that. And, you know, one of the big problems, Todd, too, is how the timing of this is just horrendous. Not only are you going to see that water rising up, but it's also possibly going to be coming through at the same time as high tide and with a full moon. So, yeah, that's going to be really, really awful, especially in places like this in Mystic. You know, I got to tell you, though, Todd, for you and for the rest of America, the scene that you see here looks very different than it did earlier. In fact, this was really just a beehive of activity. You had a lot of people out along these docks. You'll see a couple of ships here in the background, including this one, which is the Regina M. They're all secured, and shoot, even this one right here, the L.A. Dunton. Now, what's interesting is what they do when you have the rising waters that they anticipate, certainly anticipate with this one, is they put in a lot of slack in the guide rope. So when the water begins to rise up and it starts moving in, the boats will be able to do what the boats do best. They'll be able to float it out. However, the wind is going to be a big issue. The wind is going to be very strong. In fact, to be more specific, let's go ahead and show you some graphics that'll take you step by step through Monday night, and into Tuesday. Let's go. Let's begin with it. First and foremost, wind gusts, 60 miles per hour. We're talking tropical storm force winds. Some of those will be sustained. Then the water rise, we talked about that. Rain could be heavy at times. Now let's go ahead and show you Monday night. That's when they're going to get the teeth of this. That's when Sandy's really going to make her presence felt, especially here in New England. Here you go. Wind gusts at 70 plus. 70 plus. Could you get a gust of 80 plus here? Absolutely. That could happen. High impact on water rise. Definitely going to see that here. The heavy rain's going to continue. Then as we ease our way into Tuesday, notice wind gusts dropping a bit, but still very strong, still tropical storm force, and still the periods of heavy rainfall. Now, we're talking about the rising water. We talked about how that could be a tremendous issue. It was an issue, you'll remember, with Irene. It got up to about the top of my feet. Now, I'm a big, tall geek. Water goes right up about here to me, and it could easily make its way right through here in terms of the flooding. Again, we're expecting about possibly 4 feet in this particular location, so that can be a big issue. Also, the strong winds, power outages expected throughout the region, so we're talking millions of people, millions of families without power. Let's send it back to you in the studio.
All right, Reynolds, thanks so much. And as you're talking there, I was also looking at some of the leaves on the trees behind him there. At least half of those may be off the trees, but still could be a big issue with the power outage potential there. Want to bring you now to Point Pleasant, New Jersey, and that's where we find our own Mike Seidel. Mike, and I'm just curious, as you headed out to the beach there, did you notice leaves still on the trees there in New Jersey as well?
Yeah, there's a fair amount of leaves on the trees. I drove from Philadelphia in a couple of days ago. Actually, I think it was yesterday. A couple days ago was Florida. Yesterday, and yes, a lot of great color coming across central New Jersey. And so more than a majority of the leaves are still in the trees. So we've got to deal with that. Also the wind and all the rain coming down. Meanwhile, look at the surge surge. Oh, look at this wave coming up. Hello, coming right up towards us, filled with sea foam. Now that's what I'm talking timing. Just take a look at that. I know I'm the camera shot. Now, we talked about the water coming up to the boardwalk with this high tide, and that wave certainly did it. Let me walk back out here, and you get a sense. I mean, that was a pure illustration of the force of the water now coming all the way up to the bottom of the boardwalk here on the south end of the boardwalk at Point Pleasant Beach. Wow, that was pretty exciting there. A lot of sea foam. We're just getting underway. We've got a high tide now in about an hour and a half or so, so we're going to have more water coming on up, and then it's tomorrow as the storm approaches and pushes more water up. Meanwhile, power crews around the area, northeast New England, bringing folks in from out of town, and they're doing that here with Central Jersey Power.
We've brought in 13 additional line workers from out of state in addition to the 400 Jersey Central Power and Light line workers. We've got 1,200 forestry personnel, and we're also backing up all of our management and support roles.
And that should be 1,300, not 13. He wanted me to correct himself. Todd, back to you there in Atlanta as the sea foam gets pushed. Here comes another wave. Look out.
All right, Mike Seidel, Point Pleasant Beach. Thanks so much. Keep your eyes on the ocean there. Again, at least an update there from Jersey Power as well. So, hey, up next, we'll bring you your full tropical update, including the very latest observations and a detailed look at when you may experience the worst of Hurricane Sandy. We'll be right back.
It's 50 minutes after the hour. Time for the tropical update. Brian Norcross here at the Weather Channel Global Forecast Center. I want to show you a couple of different views of Sandy. First of all, now and then moving forward, and then bring in Dr. Forbes to talk about the rainfall threat. And I'll show you why this is a significant part of this, as well as the storm surge. First of all, here is your hurricane. It's in this area here. Now, it doesn't look like very much. As a matter of fact, hurricane hunters have been out there, and they haven't found they can't look every single square inch of this thing as they fly around. So it's just barely got hurricane force winds, but the energy, I just did the calculation, it's 900 miles across of tropical storm force winds. I've never seen numbers like that measured in something that's being called a hurricane. And you see over here on the left side where the upper air jet stream is interacting with this tropical system and that very heavy rain. Now, take a look at our RPM computer model. This is this evening at 7 o'clock, and here you see that rain in the Cape Hatteras, Norfolk, Tidewater area spreading up toward the Washington area. Now, watch as we go through. Well, we missed that, so I'll tell you what, I'm going to go back to that because I want you to see that, because where this rain is, and that'll be a good lead into Dr. Forbes. And watch this here. Watch it. Here it comes. Here it comes. Here it comes in. And look at where the rain stays. It stays on the left side of the circulation. You see that there? And then here it comes through the morning and up to noontime on Monday. And still, the heavy rain is to the left side. So here comes the circulation here. The water is being pushed up against the coast to the right, but that heavy, heavy rain is over there to the left. And Dr. Forbes is here because we have significant concern about this, that the way it's hinging around, it's going to focus that rain, and it's going to be a significant flood threat.
Yeah, it really is. It's almost tipping its hand already as to where the heaviest rain is going to be. Here you can see that. You see here from just to the west of Philadelphia to just east of Baltimore, down eastern shores of Maryland, all the way down to right around the Norfolk area into northeast parts of North Carolina, where already some places have had close to 6 inches. And that is where the air at the surface is colliding. To the west of that line, it's from the north. To the east of that, it's from the northeast. And that squeezing pushes up the moisture, and we'll have a continuation of heavy rain there. We already, in fact, a little bit farther to the west, have a river. The Monocacy River at Frederick, Maryland is already above flood stage. That's a bad sign, because yet a lot more rain is going to fall there. Why is it falling where it
is so much heavy rain already? It's because of the jet stream beginning to interact now with Sandy. The jet stream makes a big southward excursion. We call that an upper air trough. It's cold in the middle of that. It's also what we call negatively tilted. It's an odd orientation from northwest to southeast. That really allows the air aloft to pull apart. The air rises, and it can, in fact, make the pressures fall. So we might actually either maintain Sandy's low pressure or expand it and make it a little bit more intense. There is Sandy. Those southeast winds in that jet stream are what are going to make a left turn up toward the New Jersey area and interacting with a frontal zone, taking that moist air from the north side of Sandy, pushing it into the front where we're already colliding, and then a little bit over the top of the cold air to the west of that. So the heavy rain north and west of the track of Sandy. All told, by Wednesday, at least 4 to 8 inches of rain are going to fall. If it falls as narrowly as it is right now in a very narrow little band, we'll certainly get well over a foot of rain in there. Could be a lot of flooding if it falls in urban areas. Even as it is, this is looking a good bit like Lee from September 2001, with a lot of flooding for eastern Pennsylvania and parts of New Jersey, Delaware. We can't rule out, though, that some of the south and east winds against the mountains of New England will give heavy rain there. I'm right now calling for 2 to 4 inches, but there, local flooding. So storm surge, widespread winds, but certainly a rain runoff and river flood threat exists, as well as flash flooding.
And that's Lee from last year.
Yeah,
right?
Lee from last year.
All right. So we have that kind of flooding, and then we have the whole separate kind of storm surge flooding. So look at this. Let me push this back up here. And so we have, this is from storm surge. So this is the ocean being pushed up on the shoreline here. And there you see Cape Hatteras and 2 to 4 feet up in the tidewater, and then more as you go on north there. And the worst of this will be to the right side of where Sandy comes in. So if Sandy comes into South Jersey, it's all up in here. So this is why the evacuations are ordered in New York City. Look at these numbers, 6 to 11 feet of water above the normal tide. Is spectacularly high water. As a matter of fact, we did the calculations here. Our storm surge expert, Mike Lauer, did it. The highest storm surge ever for New York City, going all the way back to the 19th century, if it comes in as forecast.
Bad scene for coastal Connecticut, too.
That's absolutely right. And on up into New England. All right, back to you, Todd.
All right, those are just extraordinary numbers. Thank you both so much. Of course, we'll have continuing coverage with our experts. We'll take you out to the coastline coming up at the top of the hour. We'll be with you throughout this entire event. And did want to mention, there's a look at our power outage map. That is a large area of likely power outages. We'll give you more reasoning as to why we think those numbers are going to be that big. And if you lose power, we will certainly be with you online and on your mobile devices. We'll be right back. 6 o'clock here on the East Coast, 5 o'clock Central. You are looking outside, at least just some of the waves there that we've been dealing with. Again, really angry Atlantic Ocean right now. This is an extraordinary storm, and the Hurricane Sandy already punishing the East Coast. Heavy rain, vicious winds, dangerous storm surge, and the potential for that only continues to go up, especially inside Long Island Sound and the New York City area. Evacuations are underway right now. Hopefully, you have all the supplies you need at this hour, because that window of opportunity is closing very fast. In many cases, a lot of the mid-Atlantic coast will already be seeing those winds gusting up to and even over 50 miles per hour. Even tomorrow morning. Never mind tomorrow at this time. The Weather Channel has sent out our team of meteorologists to bring you the very latest on Sandy. Julie Martin, Jim Cantori, Eric Fisher, Mike Seidel, and also Reynolds Wolf live on the scene reports straight ahead. From the Weather Channel headquarters in Atlanta, you are watching an extended Weather Center Live tracking Hurricane Sandy, and we will be with you throughout this storm. Thanks so much for staying with us. As I mentioned, 6 o'clock Eastern Time, and I mentioned Central Time because there are actually going to be some effects also up towards the Great Lakes. We want to bring you the very latest on the storm right now. 16-foot waves reported off the coast of Delaware, and we are just under an hour away from New York City suspending subway service. So that means the time is ticking there. That happens at 7 p.m. You want to make sure you are in place. Good luck trying to find a cab after that closes down. 2 Hurricane Hunter airplanes are on their way to investigate Sandy. We'll certainly bring you the very latest on their, at least their findings there. The recon mission's underway. Right now, though, I want to take you into the Weather Channel's exclusive Tropical Threat Index. Or first, let's actually look at the update, the latest from the National Hurricane Center there. You saw those max sustained winds at 75 miles per hour. The alert here, again, at least some areas you at least want to be ready for some impacts from this system. But the action area, that whole huge area in red, we really can't state enough. The power outage potential, the inland flooding potential from huge rainfall numbers, and we'll take a look at some of those coming up. But make sure you are ready right now. Tonight is the time to make sure that you've made those preparations, because tomorrow it is not going to be the day to be traveling around, and we really want to at least stress that people need to be locked down and in their homes. Want to right now send it out to our hurricane specialist, Brian Norcross, for the latest. Brian.
Todd, we've been watching this thing since the beginning of last week, developing on the models, and then here it is in person, and it's already starting to happen here on this Sunday. And Monday is going to be the big day for most people, although the flooding has already started in the North Carolina, eastern North Carolina, and the eastern Virginia area down the Tidewater and on up to the east of Washington and Baltimore. But it's just going to get worse there as the system spreads to the north, essentially exactly as has been forecast by the National Hurricane Center and these computer forecast models. All right, let's show you once again here, just in case you're just tuning in, to bring you up to date on the latest advisory from the Hurricane Center. 75-mile-an-hour winds with the pressure at the last measurement, 952. As Todd said, hurricane hunters will go out there and continuously check it. The pressure is expected to stay about the same for a while, and then as it gets to the north and begins to turn the corner, it's expected to go down, because that's when all the ingredients come together to strengthen the storm, unfortunately, just before the worst of it comes ashore, and it's moving to the northeast, still parallel to the coast at 15 miles an hour, 270 miles from Charleston. Now, here is that wind forecast. This is for timing. This is what's so critical. There is the edge of the strong winds right now. The yellow areas are the strong winds, not that there aren't some gusts outside of that, but that's where trees are prone to come down and big problems will occur. And now at noon tomorrow, we see that the strongest winds, the hurricane-force gusts, are approaching the coast there, Jersey Shore down to Delmarva, and the tropical storm-force winds include all of the big cities of the Northeast, from Boston down to the Carolinas, and the indications are that this will be about the time that the system overall has its peak intensity in terms of highest winds, but with a diameter of winds in the 900 to 1,000 mile range, a diameter that we have never seen from a system that's called a hurricane. Then moving in to the shoreline and at about noontime for the center, but it's not especially relevant. That's not noontime, that's midnight. So this forecast has the center about midnight, pushing the water in all evening long along the Jersey Shore, Long Island, and on up into New England. And let me send it back to Todd, because I know we're going to check in on New England. We don't want to leave them out. As bad as we think the situation, Todd, will be in the New York tri-state area, New England is going to have this incredible onshore flow as well.
They really are, Brian. Now, thanks so much. And, of course, my family there, yeah, I have to send it out in that direction. One area bracing for the storm, certainly Narragansett, Rhode Island. It's actually where we find meteorologist Eric Fisher. And, you know, Eric, last time we checked in with you, there were a lot of folks out there walking around behind you. I know that I probably would have been one of them. But did folks kind of give you the idea that today was the day they were going to do that, and tomorrow they really plan to take this seriously and heed the warning, stay indoors?
Yeah, I think everyone, you know, Todd, like you or me, we hear storms coming, right? And you grow up kind of near the shore, and you're going to go down, you're going to look at the waves, because it's that power of nature that a lot of us are so just, we look at it, it just grabs your attention. People are going to come out and do that. I hope that they're hunkering down tonight, because come tomorrow morning, the winds are going to be ramping up. We've talked to some of the local authorities. They're going to shut down a bunch of roads by the time we get towards sunrise tomorrow. You're not going to be able to travel all that much. 70-mile-per-hour gusts and the coastal flooding. I think you won't have much of an option for a lot of people. They won't be able to get out as we head through the day on Monday. You look at some of the timing, and around Newport, we could be looking at, say, a 5-foot storm surge. That is very significant for them, at least moderate, if not major flooding. We'll also be talking about those gusts that will probably top out late in the afternoon and more toward the evening, right around 70 miles per hour, certainly stronger than Irene, and a surge that's higher than Irene. And this area is just very prone to that east-southeasterly fetch of wind, which is what we're expecting. Narragansett Bay, Long Island Sound, where water can just pile in, and as the wind keeps coming out of the same direction, that water doesn't have anywhere to go. Then you mix in the fact that we've got a full moon and high tide cycles. Absolutely, we're going to be talking about a storm that people are going to talk about here for quite some time. And Todd, last time we were talking about 1938 and historical storms. I just think it's interesting to think about. 1938, obviously, barely any warning. We didn't have the technology we have now. But now we almost have too much information, and I think sometimes that's harder for people to take these storms seriously. They're hearing about it for days from every angle, and sometimes you don't know how to take one seriously or not. This is when we really want to push that message. It is going to be serious.
Very true, Eric. Very strong words there, and hopefully everyone does take it very seriously. We'll be back in just...
Folks need to get out of the barrier islands, and I know there will always be people, and I know these folks. I've spoken to these folks who are always smarter, And because the damage in Irene was less to the barrier islands, they're saying to themselves, well, maybe, yeah, see, he was wrong the last time. I turned out to be right, you turned out to be dead. That's not a great equation. And so, you know, the margin for error for me being wrong and you going and staying at a friend's house for 2 days, I think is significantly better than winding up with a severe injury or death for yourself or for your family.
New Jersey Governor Chris Christie giving a very stern and sobering warning to the people if they need to get out of the barrier islands, reminding people it's a choice between life and death in really his own special way of saying it. But certainly need to heed those warnings. They're very serious, and this is a very serious situation. Welcome back to our nonstop coverage of Sandy. We actually continue now with meteorologist Reynolds Wolf. He's live in Mystic, Connecticut. And, you know, Reynolds, one thing there, we were looking at some of the storm surge potential numbers there. I do want to mention to folks that, you know, Long Island kind of acts like a little funnel to just channel all that water up in there inside Long Island Sound.
I mean, you know, some people could argue that it really is. You're absolutely right. I mean, it truly is true to the definition of a barrier island. It really has protected much of the coastline, including this one. Problem is, though, as you know this very well, Todd, the problem is if you have that water spinning around the top, over the top of Long Island, it tends to funnel back into a lot of the bays, the estuaries, and even, of course, harbors like this one in Mystic. Now, in this harbor, which of course is going to protect, brings obviously some protection for many of the vessels. You see a couple of them tied up here like the Dunton. They are expecting the water to rise here. In fact, with Irene, it got up to about the height of my ankles. But with this particular storm, they're expecting that the hurricane's going to provide water that could go up to about my chest height, about 4 feet or so. I can tell you this area, although it's fairly quiet now, was really a hotbed of activity. You had a lot of people securing the boats, really battening down some sails. But if you look over this shoulder, if you look over towards my left, you look all the way down, you're going to see a single-masted vessel, and the sail that's hanging there, not looking so good. I'm really hoping someone's going to tie that up a little bit better. I do it myself. I have the dexterity of a doorknob. I can barely even tie my own shoes, for heaven's sakes, but it is going to get really strong. I can tell you that the winds are going to be strong, especially by the time we get to tomorrow night. Some approaching 70 miles per hour, some even stronger than that, and then we're going to spill on over into Tuesday morning. And then keep in mind, with the strong winds, you're going to see the potential of power outages across the region. We've got a big mess for millions of people that will last for days, if not weeks. Todd, let's send it back to you.
All right, Reynolds Wolf, thank you so much there out of Mystic, Connecticut. I did just get word, actually, that there are a few areas there in southwest Virginia, elevation over 4,200 feet with 3 inches of snow on the ground, and that's going to pick up as well. But that's, at the moment, the least of our concerns. I want to talk more about some of the effects out at the coastline. I want to take you out to Jersey Shore. That's where we find meteorologist Mike Seidel. He was actually talking to residents in Point Pleasant as they were getting ready for Sandy.
Glenn Brown believes he's seen this all before. He's getting his Point Pleasant beach shop ready for the storm. He saw Irene firsthand and got through it. Sandy's potential for a higher storm surge makes him very nervous.
That's the real thing I'm concerned about, is the water pushing up from the bay and really everything converging a little more than Irene did last year.
Ken Fellows has lived here for 22 years and says he has nothing to compare this to. Fellows says that he's stocked up and ready for Sandy. He has no plans to leave his home.
I'm really not a stubborn person, but you know, kind of look at it, you try and get the best idea of what you're going to do and analyze it, and then you just, you know, you go from there.
Residents line the local gas stations today, filling tanks and gas cans, preparing to run their generators if needed.
Friday, it's bumper to bumper all day. Saturday, cans all day. And today, same thing, cans in, bottles.
Police spent the early part of the day knocking on doors and letting residents know they might want to leave. They left reminders for those who didn't answer the door.
It just has all the information they need to know. Everything, time to evacuate, places to go, shelters. So everything that we can't tell them would be on there for them to know. Yep.
The time for preparation is almost gone. For residents here and up and down the coast, the time to hunker down comes next. I'm meteorologist Mike Seidel.
Yeah, thanks so much, Mike. And, you know, I mentioned as we went to Mike there, at least some of the other threats with this storm. We have the flood potential, the strong winds over such a huge area, and one other concern there. I mentioned the snow. If we do lose power to millions of people, there will be a significant area, especially along the central Appalachians, that could have a big problem there. When you lose power and you have snow on the ground, you are talking about some cold nights there. We've already had reports in here through southwest Virginia of up to 3 inches of snow falling there, so the cold air is already in place, up to 1 to 2 feet. Some blizzard warnings in place place through western portions of Maryland all the way back down through western Virginia. So again, we want to make sure you are prepared for every side of the storm. We'll be with you 24/7. Continue. Welcome back. Coming up on 20 minutes past the hour. We now have just about 40 minutes until New York City Transit closes down. Did want to let you know that federal offices in D.C. will be closed on Monday. New York subway, as I mentioned, and over 5,800 flights between today through Thursday already canceled, and we may add to some more of those. Want to take you now out to another coastal area. I want to take you to NBC's Jay Gray. He's live in Cape May, New Jersey. Jay, there have to be some concerns there considering you're really surrounded kind of on three sides by water.
Yeah, no question about that, Todd. And they're really worried about the surge here as the storm moves inland and onshore late Monday into Tuesday. Look, you can see the radar right now. And there are strong bands of rain moving through this area, through New Jersey right now. We're getting a break, thankfully, right now here in Cape May, but we've seen the rain pick up throughout the day here. The winds have picked up as well. Again, a bit of a lull right now, which we'll take because a lot more is on the way. But the winds are gusting 25 to 30 across much of the state right now. That's going to pick up dramatically. We've seen it throughout the day with Julie Martin in the Carolinas and North Carolina seeing those strong gusts 35 to 50 and that driving rain 6 to 7 inches. She's already seen there. All of that headed to New Jersey right now. It's a big concern. The time to prepare quickly running out for so many people in this state. Where we are right now in a hotel just off the shore here, they are finishing up what has been a day of boarding the windows here and getting ready for things. Same thing going on in this community and across New Jersey. Governor Chris Christie urging people to get ready and telling them that they can make this thing work.
New Jersey Transit currently dispatching buses to Atlantic City to assist in the evacuation of approximately 4,000 residents from Atlantic City. I want to remind everyone, if you're being evacuated, you have a pet, please bring your pet with you. In addition to supplies, you should also bring clothing, whatever other items you think you may need for the next couple of days.
Yeah, and a couple of days is the short end of this. A lot of the warnings from emergency officials, especially here in New Jersey, are prepare to be without power for maybe a week or more. So we're getting ready to see conditions take a dramatic turn for the worse here. It's going to continue that way for quite some time. You've been talking about it for the last several days. Huge system moving very slowly, so we're going to get a lot of wind. We're going to get that driving rain, and then that surge is going to cause some flooding. Back to you.
You know, Jay, one quick question for you. I know I've spoken to you in a number of different tropical situations. You're well seasoned in this sort of thing. 55 degrees outside with gusty winds out of the north. Does that feel like you're waiting for a tropical system to come into the coast?
You know, it's funny because we've been talking about that over the last couple of days in Delaware yesterday and here in New Jersey today, and none of this fits the profile of a normal storm, if you will. So it's very different. It's very disconcerting, and not only for those of us who've been in a few storms, but also for the people here. It just doesn't make sense. Sure, they saw some winter-type storms over the past couple of years, but nothing like we're getting ready to see with Sandy.
All right, Jay Gray, live in Cape May, New Jersey. Thanks so much for the update there. Want to send you now over to our Global Forecast Center. Want to actually bring you into Dr. Greg Postel, a little more in-depth analysis of what's going on out here.
Yeah, thanks a lot. That conversation you had is exactly, you know, what we've all been thinking about and dealing with is the rarity of what we have here. You know, those cool northerly winds right now along the coast, and now we're just getting reports of snow in Wise County, Virginia, elevation 4,200 feet. They have 3 inches of snow already. So this is not just a hurricane. It's a whole lot of other things mixed in, and it is going to be really, really bad. So, but, you know, one of the players, I was just looking at some of the satellite imagery and some of the model data. One of the players, the pieces of the jet stream that will be coming in and helping to amplify or strengthen this system even, we think, a little bit more, has yet to really come into play. It's a jet stream that is right now over the eastern part of the United States. There's some cool air loft associated with that. That has yet to move really over Sandy in a way that will likely lower the pressure even further. The pressure's already in the low 950s, and we think that maybe the addition of some of that jet stream energy will help to lower that pressure even more. Let's look at some of the current conditions already being experienced on the northeast coast. Now, this is over 500 miles away from where the center of Sandy is. You're starting to see winds basically in the 10 to 20 mile per hour sustained range there. Gusts to 30 is common all across New Jersey, Long Island, Connecticut, southern New England, and a little bit stronger even farther to the south than that. And this is leading to some water rises that we've already seen across parts of New York. 2.3 foot water rise. This is the component that is associated with Sandy alone. This does not include the tides. So when we look at Kings Point, Montauk, we're talking 1 to 3 feet almost. Anyway, in these regions, it's going to get a lot higher than that as time goes on. This evening, 9 9 o'clock, center of Sandy located roughly 250 miles east of Cape Hatteras. The worst weather for you in Cape Hatteras will likely be between now and about 3 a.m. tomorrow morning. And then because we start to see Sandy move off toward the north, your conditions should gradually improve early in the morning. And then tomorrow, we will see the center of Sandy move very likely into central New Jersey. Strong winds all around the center, very near 75 mile per hour in gusts. But those winds will extend over a large distance because of this system. It's so huge. So we will send it back to you in the studio.
All right, Dr. Greg, thanks so much. As you just mentioned, a lot of the coast already feeling the impacts of Sandy. It will cover a large part